Good evening and welcome to Gaming with Scott presents Behind the Masks, a Southgate media production. In this series, our heroes remove their masks so that you, the listener, can learn more about the player behind the character. We discuss topics of interest and encourage our players to go off the rails and down the rabbit hole. We hope this helps our audience get to know us better. Discussions and insights begin just after this music. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Behind the Masks. I am here with Josh Elliott.
Hello.
And we're going to do a little bit of discussion tonight. We're going to wander around a little bit. We're going to talk about, we're going to open the conversation about storytelling, but it's quickly going to go into a discussion of culture, cultural appropriation, reading materials, our society, and it may go into a couple of places that get right up to the very edge of uncomfortable. We're not going to go over any lines. There's not going to be any dirty words. There might be some ideas that make you stop and go, wait, what did you just say? But we just wanted to let you know we're going to wander around a little bit tonight. We're going to talk about a few things that might make you go, hold on. So we just wanted you to be prepared. Did you have anything other to add for that, Josh?
Negative.
Okay, good.
This is one of my favorite things to talk about, Scott.
What is?
Storytelling in general. Like, unplug it from its method of delivery.
Right.
So it doesn't matter if it's a book or a RPG game or, a movie, whatever format. We're just talking about the art of story itself. Fantastic. I can talk all day long.
Well, but that's a conversation to have. No, I agree with you completely. From there, however, there is another conversation or series of conversations around the method of delivery of the story.
Sure.
Tabletop versus LARP versus book versus movie.
Sure.
I mean, ultimately, I'd like to see some of my favorite movies not butchered like Peter Jackson did, but I'd like to see them do The Hobbit, like with all the details, to follow the story. And I understand that's a 6-hour movie or a 12-hour movie, and it's going to be billions of dollars, but I'd like to see it done. And the problem we run into is you get into that syndrome of, well, the book was better than the movie. Well, yeah, of course it was.
Well, it's not even a question of better. There are things that you can do in books, obviously, that you cannot do in a movie. Okay, my mic is drooping.
No.
Prime example of that, actually, is... have you ever read Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance?
No, I have not.
Great story by Robert Pirsig. I would put it in my top 5 books of all time.
Really?
Uh-huh. It is a phenomenal read, but it's a great story. It's a great story. Cover to cover. Fantastic story. Problem is, it takes place all in the guy's head, and it is almost impossible to make that book into a movie and capture any real part of it. Robert Redford tried.
Why? Okay, but that's what I don't understand. Okay, you captured it in your mind when you read it, right?
Right.
Okay, so how can we not translate what you had in your mind, the picture you saw?
Because in the case of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, there would be 20 minutes of a guy sitting in a chair, for example, for a scene, and you would hear his voiceover dialogue of what he's thinking.
No, show me what don't tell me what he's thinking. Show me.
When he's sitting there and he's thinking about, for example, how if you look at historical records, the way Americans in colonial times described Native Americans is identical to the way Europeans described American colonists. And from that, you begin to realize that what made us American and not European.
Be on the mic. What made us European? You went like this. Yeah, there we go.
What made us American and not European was the influence of Native American culture on us.
Really?
He demonstrates it in a really awesome way. Our notions like individualism and democracy, fairness with ambition, all of these things don't come from European culture.
Well, and that's a notion that I had not had until now. There's always the conversation about co-opting another culture.
Right.
And we took the Indian headdress and now we're using it in all these photos that it's like, well, that's you just co-opting their culture. And I recognize that, and I see how that I want to say could be, but it is. It's a bad thing, okay? Because it's their culture, and when we see Pope and nun pornography, the people that are Roman Catholic get all upset, and they start, because it's a cultural thing.
I can see where you can make the point that racism is bad and that mocking people is bad, but the problem with the idea of cultural appropriation is that it leads to idea stagnancy. I will never support that. And more importantly...
Well, how does it lead to idea stagnancy?
Because you're saying, a culture is a set of ideas.
Sure.
Especially when we're talking about in art.
Oh, well, ideas and behavior.
Right. But, it's behavior stemming from a set of ideas.
Okay,
so,
yes, yes.
Ultimately, it's an idea set. And when you say this idea set can't be grabbed by other idea sets, and then when the two idea sets come into contact, they form something new and interesting.
Well,
right?
But that's
when you
fusion.
Say but when you say only this group.
Oh, geez, sorry, that was me.
Only this group can do anything with this idea set. It leads to it's just like genetics with we only mate with our own.
Okay. Well, let me back you up here. It's when you have a French-Asian fusion.
Sure.
It's fusion.
Sure.
But when one culture that is part of the so-called fusion was murdered, raped, pillaged, and run off their land by another culture, is it so much fusion as it is, this is me now raping your ideas and stealing and enslaving your ideas, as well as your people, your lands, your women, your kids. Do you understand what I'm saying? When does it go from fusion to exploitation? Because the two cultures, one was belligerent to the other.
Well, and again, to me, it's like the freedom of speech question. That's really what it comes down to. So it's this concept that we have freedom of speech, so we're all free to say whatever we want. But then we come in beyond that and say within reason. Right, so I can't go into a crowded theater and yell fire. So there are functional limits. I honestly believe the cultural appropriation question should be reserved for those situations where one individual from a certain culture is basically mocking another culture.
Okay, all right.
For the sake of belittling it. Not for the sake of arguing with its ideas, because that's acceptable whether people like it or not.
Oh, okay. All right, and I can give you that one.
And that's what I think. But
okay, because I wanted to touch on it.
I don't think just because a white author writes a book, for example, about a fictional shaman character and starts to pull in bits and pieces of Native American culture to tell that story, I'm sorry, there's nothing wrong with that, and the people that are objecting to that are they're being censors in the nasty fascist kind of way, and I really don't like it because they're preventing art from doing what art does.
Okay.
All ideas. There is nothing new under the sun. We can't do anything new anymore. All we can do is take old ideas and recycle them in new ways. That's all we can do.
Right. Well, and that's new.
Yeah.
Right. So, okay. So I'll give you, and I only wanted to touch base on the cultural appropriation thing. I didn't want to blow by it like the middle-aged, middle-class white male that I am, and just go, well, that's not a thing, and not even give it credence or a moment's thought. So in the conversation, I wanted to go, hold on, let's at least stop for a second and say, okay, here's the thing. So this guy writes his book, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Repair. Why you said the camera would be on this guy? Oh no, I'm sorry. I went too far back. Sorry. You made the statement that we wouldn't have been the colonialists. Oh. Well, we were colonialists because we formed colonies. But our culture would not have diverged from that of Mother England had it not been for the influence of the Native Americans.
Yeah, basically Native American culture rubbing off on us. It's this concept that that people don't get into now or really look at, because I think the phrase itself and the way things are written, it makes people look at it and see racism and kind of write it off. But it's this concept called the noble savage. Mm-hmm. And what it was, early thinkers were enthralled with Native American culture. And they were the people who went off, and they were the hunters and the trappers. The real frontiersmen.
Oh, yeah, the ones that were out in the frontier.
Right. Well, they would then come back, and the people in the colonies were fascinated with them. And so there's this weird two-step transference.
Right. Well, and so I had gone to cultural appropriation and had said, hey, let's talk about that. But you know what I had not put brain cycles towards was, okay, so we wiped out the Indians, and we took their land, and we took their, we did all of that. That was horrible. That was an atrocity. On par with World War II. I mean, this was another
beyond
on par with slavery.
Although I'm not belittling what happened. Although for the sake of the Native American warrior, I would like to point out that the overwhelming vast majority of the deaths were not conquest; it was disease.
Oh yeah. Here's some blankets with smallpox in them. Yeah.
Well, and we did that, but honestly, that would have happened no matter what.
Oh, no, the disease part?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because we were coming over on ships.
They could have come over to Europe.
And done the same thing. Yeah.
It was just contact.
Right. And then once you got that, it's like, here's a handshake. Did you wash? Did I what?
Yeah.
Oh, 3/4 of your people died. Whoops.
Well, because we had a problem with syphilis.
Oh, yeah. And it was horrible.
That was an epidemic.
Yeah.
Of the same proportion. Now, I feel the need to say this, having said all that, which is that in no way do I condone the giving of blankets covered with smallpox.
Oh, no.
As anything other than
the
murder
horrible,
and the
terrible
most horrible
act
sense.
that it was. Yeah. But it's like, okay, when you look at, and I'm putting these all together, and when you look at the atrocity with the Jews in World War II, when you look at the slavery of the black man and the black woman in early colonial days, when you look at the massacre and wiping out of the Native Americans, I mean, all told, white folk, they got a bad rap. I recognize that, and I understand that, and I see what I'm saying.
Well, however, the thing we lose sight of.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
However, when we talk about cultural appropriation from Native Americans, from the slaves, because there's this whole underbelly of music when you get into black culture and what has been appropriated by the white male, okay, and I don't mean to make this a white male conversation.
No, it's fine.
But the idea, but you mentioned the idea of, with that appropriation came this fascination and cultural impact from the Native Americans that, like, you just said that and it blew my mind, because I had not put, because there's this influence on colonial life and direction, because when you look at Thanksgiving and the whole thing from the purest white bread portion of the storytelling, the idea of, those settlers would have died if it were not for the help of the Native Americans, and it's like, well, there's got to be influence there. There's got to be impact. There's got to be men, women, and children looking across the racial gap and going, wow, these people survived doing it. There's something to be admired here. There's a part of that I want to bring into my set of ideas, my culture as we've defined it.
Sure, absolutely. And everything that's good about what I call the American lie, which just means it's this ideal that we never even reached. We think we had it, but we never really did. But it's still a very good idea. Everything I like about it, it comes from the Native Americans. That's
so. What do you mean? When you say the American lie, what do you mean?
Well, it's this idea that we were ever a meritocracy. Okay.
Were we not? Isn't this pull yourself up by your bootstraps? American self-made man. Isn't that what this is supposed to be here?
I mean, I touched a little bit on it in the character creation episode, but no, we've always been an oligarchy.
Always?
Always.
Constitutional Convention, Philadelphia, 4 months, kick the press out, build a constitution.
People seem to forget that George Washington, that family, was the richest family in the colony.
Well, sure it was. Sure they were.
No, I don't think people understand. He owned half the land
Right?
I mean, he was he was the Bill Gates of the colonies of his time.
He was the Koch brothers.
Right.
He just money out the. Well, but
They all were.
Right,
I mean,
well,
to an extent.
Yes. But one of the things that the Constitutional Convention served the purpose for was to get enough people together in the same room who could read. This was an attempt to bring the smartest of the New World together.
The problem is the Federalist Papers completely blow that picture right out of the water.
Because
they actively did not want the common man, and they called.
Oh, they did.
And not her at that time.
Not her. No, not her. No.
She was irrelevant.
Yeah, I don't mean
no matter what her station. They sure as hell didn't mean her, but they definitely meant him, and they deliberately did not want him to have the right to vote. And they also understood that they were unleashing this idea of a republic, and that the common man might fight and secure the right to vote. This is how far-thinking they are going. And so they said, let us build in like the Electoral College and so on, just
as
in
a check.
case
Yeah, a check and balance.
the common man elects the wrong person.
Well, I'm going to play a trump card here. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Okay, the wrongest person. Go ahead. Keep going with your idea there. Right. No, so the 250, 300 years later, we sit back and go, is the Electoral College an antiquated counterbalance that needs to be removed?
Oh, I mean, I think anyone who is not a oligarch who controls the upper reaches of our political system through dollars should definitely want to do away with the Electoral College, because it serves one function. It serves one function, and that is to overturn the will of the people expressed in an election.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. Duh.
And, you know, the only argument you can make is that Hitler was elected, and if they had had the Electoral College, maybe they would have not elected Hitler.
No, they would have.
Yeah, that's...
I mean, with the economic reforms that he brought through, with the changes to put the common man back to work to guarantee jobs. I mean, I'm sorry, folks. That's democratic socialism. There you go.
Well, let's...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Let's not paint with that broad of a
nationalist socialism.
Yeah, but, well, it's more, I mean, it's more like what we have right now, because the whole thing with Hitler was corporations, government, and religion joining forces,
which scares the hell out of me,
to rule everyone. And that's what we have now.
It scares the hell out of me, because I think we're real close.
We're very close. We are, in my opinion, one, maybe two major attacks away.
Oh, yeah.
But...
Oh, yeah. From blitzkrieging Canada or Mexico? Yeah, I'm with you. I don't mean to be that way.
One of them. But...
I hear they have cheese in Canada. But anyhow, I don't know what that has to do with anything. I'm just saying. So, no, you brought up this idea of the cultural impact from the Native Americans, which, okay, so I'm going to tell this story, okay, which blows my mind because I hadn't thought of it. I thought about the cultural appropriation. I've thought about the atrocities. But I never thought about, like, what part of their culture did we not appropriate, but we folded in?
Well, that's why I recommend the book, because Persig is literally an undiscovered genius. You know how you find these people sometimes?
Right.
They lived, they wrote, they died, and they just weren't noticed.
Right.
But you pick them up and you're like,
whoa.
Yeah.
Mind blown.
Persig's like that, and he does it through the entire book. And the amazing thing is he weaves you this tapestry that if you look at any one part of it, if I were to tell you the pieces of the ideas that he explores, you would say, this is jumbled.
Yeah, you'd be like,
This is brilliant, but it's jumbled. It's that unrefined genius.
That diamond in the rough kind of thing.
Right, kind of thing. But in the book, when he weaves it all together, it creates a tapestry that is just stunning.
And that's the best.
Yeah.
I mean, that's fantastic.
But
so, where were we going with the... we were going...
You were about to tell a story.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let me tell a story. Oh, jeez. Okay. So, I moved around a lot when I was younger. And I lived in like 10 different places before I was 16. Okay. We moved every year and a half. Because...
Military?
My father was doing training,
right.
Medical training. So we'd go to this hospital, we'd go to this school, we'd go to this thing, we'd do that. A lot of Western Pennsylvania, and then I moved to Chicago, and I really grew up in Chicago. Okay?
Okay.
Like, literally, we drove the U-Haul from Western Pennsylvania over to Chicago to the apartment where we were going to live. It was going to be a year to 2 year stint at Cook County Medical Center, where the old man was going to pick up a fellowship in micro hand surgery, right? It's good stuff, right?
Yes.
So that we drive the U-Haul over. We unpack the first U-Haul, and then right down the street, this is in Oak Park, Illinois, right down the street is the Oak Park Mall, which was a walking mall, okay? So it was like the storefronts were on what would be a street, but there was no street. It was just sort of a communal area, and it was really kind of nice. So we jump up on the side of this bank, okay, where it has these, they weren't benches. They were like 4 feet higher than a bench, but you'd take a running jump, and you'd flip around and sit down on them, and you could look down. Not 30 seconds later, walks up this guy who goes, "Hey man, you want to score some coke, some weed, just immediate, like this is your stereotypical drug dealer. Like, nose starts to bleed as he's I got a thing. No, and we were like,
Right.
no. And he goes, "Okay, we're cool, man. We're cool. That's cool. All right, cool." And he walks on and starts hitting up other people. Like, the minute we said no, he was like, "Oh, I got it. And I don't want to pester anybody. And we don't need the cops here." And it was this bizarre. Like, okay, so I'm 16 years old. Grew up, lived in Western Pennsylvania. Really grew up in Chicago because that's where I got my freaking education. Talk about a flipping education. Take a 16-year-old from Western Pennsylvania, drop him on the L at Saturday night and 1 a.m. Just riding the L for fun because I wasn't smart enough to know better, right? So I'm getting a freaking education here, right? So needless to say, we traveled through parts of Chicago at 1, 2, 3 in the morning, okay, on any night of the week, because 1 o'clock in the morning on a Monday, there's a lot going on in Chicago. Stuff is still happening. Indiana, in 1988, like, it was 8 o'clock at night on a Monday, and we're done. Everything closes. You go home, watch whatever, and go to sleep. Okay,
right.
That's how that works. So I had seen some scary places when I was like, I'd been on the wrong side of the tracks, I'd been on the wrong side of town, and the wrong time of night. Like, I'd seen some, okay. So when we moved down to Indiana in 1988, first thing that hit me was it was so clean. I mean, it's just, this city is clean. From there, this city is safe. Like 10th and Oriental, 16th and Tibbs, like, these places are like, hey, this place is kind of, like, I don't fear.
Hawville's a little shady, but the rest of the city's pretty.
But even shady Hawville is not bad as some of the worst parts of,
Right.
You get down to Cabrini Green. I went down there once with a group of friends of mine because we got turned around and ended up on the wrong side of town. Like, burned out tenements. Holy shit, we were in the wrong, like not in it was bad. We were like, turn the car around.
I just feel so bad that the current situation in Chicago gets no national attention.
No, and it should. It's terrible. So I tell you,
it's like Beirut.
yeah.
It's literally like Beirut, and there's just nobody's talking.
And
about
everybody's just like, whatever. Let's talk about the Muslim Syrian refugees. So I was like, seriously? And you want to talk? Okay, all right, yeah. Let's. We're
gonna get flamed.
We got some messed up priorities. so I tell you all of that to tell you this story. We went to the Idle-Jorg Museum, which, for those of you that don't know, the Idle-Jorg Museum is one of the premier museums in the country for Native American artwork and culture. Anything you would like to add to Idle-Jorg, I've toured the museum several times. It's a great museum.
Yeah, no,
there's some amazing art there.
They had a traveling exhibit, pieces from the Roman Republic go through there that was just fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing. So each summer, they have a Native American festival. There's Native American art, there's Native American dance, there's Native American music, there's Native American culture. There's, like, it takes over the majority of Military Park. I mean, it's big, right? So we went through, it was mid-90s,
Okay.
late 90s maybe.
Okay.
And I have never gotten a kill Whitey vibe like I got from that cultural fair, like the Idlesburg Museum fair. Like, you'd go around and you'd see these Native American artists, and you'd be like, oh, that's an amazing piece of art. Like, how much is? And there was the idea of, oh, the white man wants to take my art now too. It's still happening. Die, white man. And it was like, it was this palpable, like, squinty, like, you'd go, oh, this is amazing. What was the inspiration for, like, I shouldn't even talk to you. You've taken enough from me and my people already. I hate you. I mean, it's this palpable sense of seething hate that a majority of the people there wouldn't mind if they, wished me dead. I mean, it was just weird. Like, I've been in some bad places, and I have never gotten a kill Whitey vibe like I got off of that crap.
Well, I mean, let me ask you this, because...
And it was straight kill. I mean, it was just like, whoa, I'm fearing for the woman that I'm with. It's let's protect the women folk. It was like that kind of like, circle the wagons, get the, you know.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up. So let me, little background on me is that from the time I was about 12 until I was in my very early 20s, I lived in Montana. And, had some extensive contact with the tribes down there.
Really? I did not know that.
Most specifically
I mean, I knew you lived in Montana, but I don't know what Montana is like. I don't know.
Well, it's funny because I come out here and people think like all the Native Americans are dead.
Yeah, like they're not there anymore, right?
Yeah,
like,
and I'm like, no,
thing,
I've
right?
actually, hung out with them, shook their hands, talked to them. They're still here. And they're like, they're not. They're like so watered down. No, they're still. There are still full-blooded Native Americans.
That's still a thing, right?
Now there aren't very many.
Yeah, well.
But in any case, I'm aware of the feeling that you're talking about because the first time I went to a gathering like that, I felt the same thing. But it wasn't anything they were doing. It was actually my own. Well, 2.1, it was my own white guilt projecting back on me.
Okay, yeah.
That I wasn't even aware that I had.
That could be.
And then 2, I believe, to certain extents, I believe in a genetic memory, so to speak.
Really?
Yeah. Part of what you have to understand is in Montana, racism towards Native Americans is a huge issue. And, well, at least when I was there. I can't speak to today at all. I haven't been in the state for decades. But the thing people have to put into perspective is that for them, the war was still going on 70 years ago. So their grandparents were literally being killed by and killing Native Americans. So for them, this is not
really
ancient history. Yeah. So they are.
Yeah, because it's like,
ridiculously.
Okay, so it's like, from like 1805 to 1865 was when this all was, and then that was the end of it, right? Like, apparently not.
No,
right.
Not in the slightest. Not for that, So,
especially out west.
Yes. Well, the farther out west you go, which that's one interesting point Persic makes in his second book called Leela. He takes a boat and sails it across the country through riverways. And one thing he talks about is through architecture. As you go from the East Coast to the West Coast, and this is very true, you can't help but notice how in the West you start off and things are very much more egalitarian. Mm-hmm. And the farther east you go, the more dramatic the stratification becomes, the more class-based, the more European the society starts to look. Until you get to like Vermont, which is you are either
you're in New England.
You are
New England.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and you are either a WASP of the, proper pedigree or you're not, and you're nothing.
Oh, wow.
Right? And it's really interesting. And he says that is because the egalitarian nature of Native American culture is the difference.
See.
it rubbing off.
That's very interesting.
But my point is, to your point, is again, I had that experience. I had a very similar experience, but I eventually became aware that was my own projection.
Oh, really?
Yeah, part of me expected these people to feel that way towards me, so I saw them feeling that way towards me. Also, standard white ways of greeting and welcoming people,
right?
And the sort of thing you do, the well, hello,
yeah,
right? The fake pleasantries that are a very elaborate orchestrated dance that we are very accustomed to,
right?
They don't do. So to us, they seem cold.
Yeah.
To us, they seem cold, but they're actually far warmer in genuine interaction than we are, in my opinion.
But because there's not the set dressing,
right,
of initial interaction, that can be taken, especially again, like you said, if it's not your culture, if it's not your if it's not your way of behaving, if it's not your set of ideas, then I could see, I could see how, okay, all right, well, that was cold. Well, no, that was normal. It's you're used to a different set of interactions when you first meet. Yeah, no,
right.
no, and that. So, and I'm glad we had this conversation because maybe that is far more. And again, this was me in the early 90s. You know, it's 2016 now. I have 2 kids. I'm married. At the time, I was single. I was going out with this young lady who was just crazy, and it was like that spicy, like, yeah, crazy is great, you know. So I had all sorts of baggage, like a 16-piece Louis Vuitton steamer trunk set that I was carrying around with me. So it is more than likely.
You know the saying, right? It's once you go black, you never go back. Once you go red, your old loves are dead. And then once you go white, you ain't never right.
Oh, wow. Okay, no. For our listeners, I may have to put up a warning about that. No, I've just a disclaimer before we throw that. But no, I had never heard that. Wow. Okay. Well, now I'm all kinds of like, wait, what? Okay, I gotta stop. Can't go that direction. So maybe that was my own projection. Maybe that was. I mean, fair enough. I had not had that thought. This has been an amazing thought discussion for me, just from the standpoint of,
Because you know how I know one thing that resonates very strongly with you is this whole concept of honor and integrity, but in a far more simple way, in terms of, you know, man's handshake is his bond.
Yeah.
Right? And this like is
I said I'd do this, so I'm going to do it.
Believe it or not, that's a very Native American principle. That's
very interesting.
It's very much so. The idea of the American middle class and the
See, I heard this the other day on the radio. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Don't let me steal your thunder. Go ahead.
The values
steal
of
your
it.
Thunder. There's a go ahead.
The idea of you do an honest day's work for an honest day's pay, and there's a simple integrity to it. And the idea of, you know, you get what you earn, and the idea of fairness, but also with the idea of initiative, right, together. And this whole, just all these concepts that we think of as the good core American values. What I want everyone to do is to think back to the Protestants who came here from England.
Do we have to?
Well,
Go ahead.
but think about their culture for a second, because on the one hand they want religious freedom, which just means freedom from Catholic persecution, because they obviously came over here and were abusive to each other.
Right. Okay, that's what kills me.
So,
is because we don't want Catholic oppression. Catholic oppression. Seriously, really? Okay. I am a Catholic. I understand how their oppression works. I was oppressed by it. Okay.
Right.
So, but we want to flee Catholic oppression so that we can do terrible things to each other.
Right.
Instead of having the Catholics do it. Like Hester Prynne, the Scarlet Letter, we're going to call people whores out on the we're going to hang people for witchcraft.
Right.
Like what?
And you know, you look at their culture, and they were very much so a culture of authority and obedience.
Authoritarian.
Right? They're very authoritarian. They were very rigid. In some cases, they, were very original sin in terms of people are corrupted.
Oh, yeah.
People are inherently evil. And then, they go so far, many of them, as predestination.
Yeah.
Right? Things are locked in. You suck, it sucks, and that's just how it is. I mean...
So you can never better your station in life because things suck, you suck, and that's just how it is.
Right. And so look at that culture, which I understand I'm mainly speaking for Northern Protestants. Southern Protestants were kind of different, although they later became Baptists. So anyway, but look at that culture.
With their own baggage full of I'm going to be mean to other people, but go ahead.
Right. But then fast forward to 1950s America and the culture of the average American and the values of the average American. It is impossible to connect those dots. It is impossible on an ideascape to move from point A to point B unless you build the bridge of contact with Native American culture.
I had never thought of that before, but that's an amazing to say. Let's use that contact as the tool to draw the line between point A and point B.
And it's
amazing line of thought.
The irony is they gave us the best gift that, in my opinion, the human race has ever received, and we killed them for it. But, that's what we do.
Yeah, that is almost a unique American trait,
Somebody comes along, they say, live in harmony, live in peace, live in balance, and love everyone. And we go, die.
Well, okay, maybe it's not a uniquely American thing.
Yeah, I'm not blaming Americans for being bastards. Bastardry existed long before America.
Yeah.
It's just the lie is that we didn't import it, bring it with us, and then continue the game. I mean,
well, and it's interesting to see especially when you talk about the differences between American culture and English culture, and you see, there is, and it's come up more recently with the wedding and all that. There's this thirst for wanting to follow the monarchy that it just nauseates me because it's like, well, we kicked this guy out, right? We kicked the king and his monarchy out. Wasn't that the point? But I really think that's why we have such an obsession with celebrities, is we're trying to fill the hole of the monarchy.
Yes, I completely agree.
We want famous people that we can look at that are successful and that are the upper crust and that are the class above the class above us, the monarchy. We want a monarchy, but we don't. But because we had that break, because we had that influence, we're not going to come out and say, God, we'd love a monarchy, because that's against what we fought to break away from.
Well, and celebrity fascination is kind of worse than monarchy fascination, because in your heart of hearts, it's not birth-based, so part of you is like, I could become one of them.
But I think that's what we all, that's what, not what we all, I think that's what a large chunk of this country is motivated by. You know what? If I get my lucky break, I, too, could become the next whatever.
You're right. And I'm not saying it's not true for you, but I'm saying the statistical odds are not in your favor.
You play the Powerball? Yeah.
I mean...
And I'm not saying it's not true for you either. However, mathematically speaking, let's be real about it and go...
Although I'm a true American, because I hear those words and I just go, I will be the one.
Yeah. Yeah, because you hear those words, and what resonates, and this is part of what women sometimes have a hard problem with, is the idea is, so what you're telling me is, I've got a shot. I mean, that's what you just said.
Yeah.
Not 1 in a million. So you're saying I'm good. I should keep fighting for this. Wait, what? Yeah, because there is such a huge difference, and folks, Google this. There is such a huge difference between 0 and 0.00000000001% chance. Like no chance and an infinitesimal slice of a chance is so mathematically significant that we as a people have glommed onto that and gone, so what you're saying is I've got a shot.
Well, yeah, and part of it is it's an evolved thing with human beings. If you think about despots and tribal leaders and just how our society has worked through time, we are hardwired to figure out who has power of life and death, and to learn to be fascinated, to watch their every move, to adapt to it, to respond to it, to know everything we can, because those are the people we need to please,
Right.
to be sure we're never kicked out of the tribe and or worse, right? So
Right.
it's kind of hardwired into us to be that way. The question with these things is always, how can we take this knowledge of this tendency and harness it for benefit? You know,
Well, for whose benefit?
well, ideally individual benefit, right? I mean,
Well,
or social benefit.
that's there it is. Which of us benefits more than the others is part of the thing.
Yeah, yeah.
So Zen, and what's the book again?
Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance.
Zen and the Art. It's a big book, long book.
It's chunky, and it's also a book. You know, he deals with some high-end concepts. So if you're a derp, don't read it.
Right. We're not. Well, now. Well,
You want to read
well,
it slow.
Well,
You want to take your time.
well. If you're a derp, you should probably read it because we encourage derps to read as much as they can so that they're not derps anymore. Just saying. Good
luck with that.
Okay. If you have questions and you're reading these, please tweet Asmodee 359 859 359.
8675309.
Hate you. Okay.
369.
369 369. Hate you. Okay, move on. Because I was like 3. Oh, okay. Now I'll never forget it. Now that I thought it through, I was just like, I never pay attention to the numbers at the end of it. Like, Action Jack 853. Like,
Yeah.
where'd you get 853 from?
Yeah.
What the hell's wrong with you? Like, wait, hold on. 85. President Harrison. 85. Where are we? 85.
Nothing.
8 plus 5 is 13. So 853. How? What math did you, Josh? What math did you do on that, man? Come on now.
Nothing makes your life feel quite so nihilistically pointless as when you go to sign up for like an email or something and you're like, you get to be Joshua Elliott 1. What?
Right?
I'm not unique?
Right? No, see, and I was going the exact opposite. You get to be Joshua Elliott 358.
Wow.
Like, wait, what? Like, there were so many. Like, seriously, there were 357 other. All right, no.
Although then I partially just claim it. I go Full Metal Jacket on it. I'm like, there are many Joshua Elliots, but this one is mine.
Exactly. Oh, okay. So, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Author again?
Robert Pirsig.
Robert Pirsig. All right, I'll have to check that out.
And when you read it, you'll understand
Audiobook
why.
or read?
Read. And read slowly.
Underline?
I don't say that very often, but read slowly.
That good, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. All right, well, that's cool. So, how did we end up getting there from Trello?
That I have
We went
no idea. You asked me if I used
sideways.
Trello.
Yeah, and then it went sideways. Okay. Well, thank you very much for listening, ladies and gentlemen. This concludes this episode of Behind the Masks. If you've got any questions or there's any topics you'd like us to go over, please reach out to us. You can find us on Twitter, you can find us on Facebook, or you can email us at gamingwscott@gmail.com. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Bye.
And that'll do us tonight for Gaming with Scott presents Behind the Masks, a Southgate media production. You can always send us an email at gamingwscott@gmail.com or catch us on Twitter. Josh Elliott is at Asmodee369. Dan is at Malkware. Josh Jackson is at ActionJack853. And Rico is at R1CO. Or me, Scott T, at GamingWScott. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/GamingWScott. Remember, superfans, the more you share, the more we make. If you love what we do, share it with your friends. If you don't love what we do, please share it with us. This show will only be made better by listener participation. Send us email or comments on Facebook, or send us a tweet of the things you would like us to discuss. We promise we will get your comments and topics on the air. And as always, you'll hear from us real soon.